Good morning and welcome to Emerson Institute at City of Light. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Gretz, and it's a delight to welcome you to our class. This is the class on the power of positive energy. It's class number 4, and we are prepared for an exciting unfolding of insight and wisdom, all about the power of positive, and very practical energy within our life. So let's dig in today, and in preparation for that, we're going to take some deep breaths. We're going to breathe in through our nose, hold for a brief moment, and then just release out all stress and tension. What we're actually going to do is reset our thoughts, our consciousness to this moment, to be in the present right now. We're going to be aware of our breath. And that just brings us right here from maybe thoughts of, what are we doing later? What's going on in our world today? What distractions we've had? Bringing us right into the moment. As we do that, prepares us for everything that the Spirit has for us in this class session, because the Spirit of God is ever speaking. The Spirit of God is ever teaching and showing us the way to our highest and best. So would you join with me? Let's breathe together. Breathe in and release. Deep breath in and release. Deep breath in and release. And in this moment of silence, let's set our intention. Express that desire of what we hope to experience during this time that we share together. Just begin to name it. What is it you desire? And so it is. All right, let's begin. I hope you have your note packet with you and pen and paper, whatever it may be, to assist you in our class study today. If you do not have notes, let me remind you once again, if you're viewing us for the first time and would like to have a note packet, you can reach out to me at revtpaul@aol.com and let me know of your interest. We'll make sure that our registrar, Dr. David Carter, has you on the list as he sends these notes packets out every class session before the class begins. So you'll have a chance to look through those notes. It's sort of the cliff notes on the chapter and some additional thoughts that I'm bringing about. So it's a great tool for you to follow along and to take notes on. And what we love to hear is at the end of the class what your takeaway is, what really spoke to you about this class session. So maybe you want to jot that down or highlight something from the note packet that really has been speaking to you, because we'd love to hear what's your takeaway at the end of the class session. So let's dig in. This is class number 4, and the author begins with this thought. At any given time, your vibrations are begin to set out into the universe. And it is these vibrations that allow the universe to create. At any given time, your vibrations are being sent out. They're being just flowing out from you. And these vibrations allow the universe to create. And as an energetic being, our creative power begins with our energetic vibration and frequency. So we really want to say, we know that this energy that's going out into the world, this energy of our positive thought or negative thought, this energy of love and grace or fear and lack, whatever it may be, that's what we're sending out into the world. It's radiating from us because we are energetic beings. And we are collectively responsible for the world, and we are creating. We can adjust and we can create by focusing our energetic vibration on what we want rather than what we don't want. So can you imagine what it would be like if we worked as a collective, as we worked as a community to set a vibrational energy in a certain direction of peace, joy, hope, promise, of believing for the highest and best? Let's take a look at this. In your note packet, I have a box entitled Food for Thought. Metaphysics is the teaching that the belief that a collective, meaning a group of the same vibrational thought, holding the same idea in the same way, have the power to produce a desired outcome. The ancients have gathered and to do a rain dance. We've heard stories of ancient communities, Native American communities, whatever it may be, Aztec communities gathering together to do a rain dance and to believe that the rain dance would bring about the rain. And as they did the dance, the shaman or the tribal chief might do something special within the dance, and people began to see, oh, this dance caused the rain. But they gathered together because when there were circumstances when the dance did bring about rain, they believed it actually worked, that the dance was causing the rain. You see, what created then was a belief that when you do the rain dance, rain comes. So people began to gather in this ancient thought that's saying, let's begin to gather to do the rain dance because we believe the rain dance brings around the rain. So was it the dance or was it the collective belief that brought about the rain? Well, it was the energy of the collective belief. It was the energy of the vibration of people all agreeing together and believing together that began to create a vibrational frequency for the world that made the shift and that brought about the rain. So we say, well, wait a minute, where do you get this stuff from? How do you get this thinking that our vibrational frequency might impact or create a difference within the world? Well, let's look at the ancient truth of Scripture from Matthew chapter 18, verse 19, which says, "Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Now, to bind would be to deny. So whatever you are holding in thought, you're saying, I deny fear. I deny this negative energy. I deny these negative thoughts. I deny that that sickness is within me. I claim I am healthy and whole. You see, denial would be to bind something in this physical consciousness, and to loose it would be to release it as truth and saying, now I do believe I am well. I do believe I live in prosperity. I loose this truth that's at work within me. So the scripture is saying whatever you bind on earth in this physical realm will be bound in consciousness in heaven, the higher consciousness, the greater awareness. That's what heaven is. And whatever you loose on earth in this physical realm and speak forth and claim to be so will also be loosed in higher consciousness and in what we may look at heaven. It goes on to say again, "Truly I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything that they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven." This ancient teaching of scriptures, this ancient teaching from our master teacher of Jesus, unfolding for us the very secret of vibrational frequency at work within our life. That when we gather in a group and there is a sense of agreement, that there's a sense, we begin to create a race consciousness, a consciousness of the community, an awareness of the community, a consensus belief. And that belief begins to make a shift within our world. Dr. David Carter has a comment.
I was listening to a Neville Goddard book this morning on my way here, and he talked about this very passage, and his interpretation of it was that it's not two people, but it's the awareness of being, your consciousness, and the thing desired. When those two things become one, then it produces the manifestation. Do you see that?
Certainly, I believe that, for us as individuals, that when this becomes one, that which is we believe to be true on earth in the physical realm is true in the consciousness, in the higher consciousness. That which we believe to be true in the higher consciousness, we allow to be true on earth. But also believe that there's an aspect of unity, of that when two or three are in agreement, when there's a group of agreement, we create a higher vibration than just one person expressing a vibratory thought or frequency, that the collective begins to create a shift. So many authors say that when we find 1 in 10 making a shift, 1 in 10 on the average, we will begin to shift consciousness and awareness. When a belief begins to shift from 1 in 10, so what we find is the more and more that we bring about education and awareness, we find more people coming into agreement, that we become more in alignment with the 1 in 10 scenario, that beliefs begin to change. So, in an example, many people believe the world to be flat. Okay, when there came to a greater consciousness and a greater awareness of 1 in 10, they began to move before that. And then the consciousness began to grow greater and greater, and the number growing higher, that today it's probably 9 out of 10 believe that the world is round and it is not flat. I think there's still some flat earth believers in this world that still want to hold on to ancient thinking. But what I want to say is that we have the ability to create shifts when we do this collectively. And we may look at 1 John chapter 5, verses 14 through 15. And this is the confidence. If we ask anything according to his will, God hears us. And if we know that he hears us in whatever we ask, we know that we already possess what we've asked of God. So we already know that the universe is listening to every vibrational frequency that we emit, every thought, every word, every action that we're expressing. The universe is in tune with this. And if we know that the universe is listening, then we know that we already possess what we have. So if we're coming together as a collective, and this is why on Sundays here at City of Light, we have prayer request cards. And we're collecting these prayer request cards, and they're posted on our Facebook site at City of Light, our group page. And you'll find them there, and they're written in the affirmative. So all you need to do is read them out loud, and you're already expressing in heaven what you want on earth, and you're expressing on earth what you believe is in heaven. You're binding up these things and releasing these things. You're binding up the doubt and fear around it as we express these prayer requests in the affirmative. As our faith says, I know it is so. I believe it is already happening. So you'll find these prayer requests there written in that affirmative style. And we're inviting over 500 people to share in these prayer requests, to read them out loud, to pray, and to exhort and exercise the power of belief in their life. So when we have this collective around all of these requests, affirming them as so, we're creating a vibrational frequency that is creating a shift within our world, that where we begin to claim these things, we now move into the realm of likes attracting likes. So could you imagine what it's like if we began to gather as a collective and create a greater collective? And we've seen examples of this in stories of meditation groups forming. Particularly, there's a study of one in Philadelphia where they gathered together and they began to meditate and hold in consciousness peace for the city, and the crime rate went down. So we've seen documentation of this. We know what happens. So why not engage in a collective and creating a collective community that's raising the vibration of good versus the vibration of fear and negativity? Our challenge is we've used media to create a vibration of fear and lack and separation. And so we're so in tune with that which is feeding our collective or our community. We're buying into that versus finding sources that are uplifting and positive and encouraging and hopeful. So we may be more in tune with the negative news than the hopeful news. So, although there are those who are saying the COVID-19 in Georgia is at pandemic levels, there's good news that we just heard on the news that the pandemic level is going down in Georgia. So which do we want to hold to? The consciousness that things are getting better or the things that are getting worse? So what we want to do is be a part of this collective that is raising positive energy. Lethe has a comment.
I was just thinking about this collective consciousness, and what came to mind is that there are pockets on earth that is poverty stricken. Is that the result?
Yes. Well, we find
feel that they can't go any further. That's
yes. And in that poverty environment, there's a collective consciousness that says, we can't. It's not possible. We're poor. We live in lack. It's not going to happen for us. But it's those who've broken free from that kind of consciousness that have demonstrated that no matter what your circumstances, you can bring about a change. You can elevate your vibration. You can move in the frequency of positive, affirming possibilities within your life and bring about a transformation or a change. So what we want to do is impact these pockets. This is why we come together in church. And you wonder why. Is it necessary that I attend church for my spiritual life? Well, the scripture talks about don't forsake the coming together as a collective, as a community, coming together for the sole purpose of raising the vibration, of edifying one another. What is to edify but to lift up? How do we lift? And what we're doing when we're lifting up, we're raising the vibrational frequency of a collective community. So as we come together, the whole essence and rationale for us coming together is to edify, lift up, to be in the presence of encouragement, and to share in this a collective idea. So when we join together in affirming prayer during a Sunday service, we're asking everyone to join in this consciousness of affirming the power of the presence of God, affirming the power of God working within our lives, affirming the power of the miraculous manifesting within us, and affirming that power for one another. And so we're lifting up the vibration within this collective community. This is why it's so important, not only for ourselves, but for our world, that we're gathering together to create these collectives where these are energy shall we say, pockets that are just really changing the vibrational frequency of our world. Carla, you have a comment.
An observation that I had from combining this book and the last book also is that sometimes when I read the Bible verses in the language, a little bit older language, it causes me to momentarily forget that I am an individuation of God and that God and I are not separate.
Right.
God, you are not separate. God and everybody here are not separate. And that because of that, we already have everything.
Right.
And access to everything. And so it's not so much a matter of attracting it. We actually already have it. In Paul Selig's book, he said, you can have anything that you are willing to receive. So you already have it. But we kind of put up our own blocks to receive it. So therefore, we have everything already. And keeping our frequency high is part of remembering that, right? And keeping
right.
Vibration high. And also when we come together and more of us remember that and more of us are receiving, we are creating larger pockets of that high frequency energy. And I think that's so important.
Right. Because what the high frequency energy is, as you said, awareness. Awareness of that which is already here and present. But we have bought into the negative energy, says, I don't have, I lack, I'm separate from, etc. And your comment, and then we'll go to Lethe.
I'm listening to you and I agree totally. The conclusion that I've drawn to this point in the class is in book 2 of Selig, Love and Creation, he challenges, or whoever it is he's channeling, challenges you to that, and it says, in book 1 we taught you, I know who I am. In book 2, it says, oh no you don't. You really don't know who you are. And I'm sitting there saying, I know who I am. I've spent a lot of years knowing myself, knowing God, but the addition onto that is keeping in with other people who know there's an expansion. It's unlimited. It's totally unlimited. And so I know who I am. I'm a creation of God. But I don't know all that I am. And surrounding you with people that are like-minded can bring that out.
Yes.
Yes.
And so we're always working to heighten our awareness, right, to keep that vibrational level at this high frequency. Our challenge is that we may be finding that some of our frequency is dropping down lower and lower. And so when we gather together in collectives, when we gather together in like mind, we begin to make a change and a transition in our life.
And that's where we can help bring other people bring their vibrations up by reminding them of a different perspective that expands them.
Right. Let's go to Lethe. Your comment, and then over to Carla.
It was just a comment, really. I'm speaking about, I think I'm picking up one or two things over here. And it seems to me that this energy, this collective energy, acts sort of like a magnet that pulls to us whatever our desires are.
Yes.
It's just a comment.
Wow. We can create that energy of attraction of what is already present, but we may not be aware.
Right.
So we're attracting what is already there. Everything that we need in this world, we already have. It's already there. God knows the desires of our heart. We see these passages of scriptures over and over again. So we know that it's present, but we just want to have that power of attracting it and bringing it to us and manifesting it within our world. Let's go to page 2. Carla, I'm sorry, let's go.
I was just going to say to your comment about like 1 in 10 holding the frequency. And I think that's why it is important to gather with other people like we are here today to share, but also anybody who's feeling low frequency to seek out higher people who do seem to be upbeat and have a positive attitude, because even if you don't necessarily feel it right away, when somebody is in a room full of darkness and they light a candle for themselves, that light doesn't just fall on them, it falls on everybody else too.
Right.
And that's how that works, that 1 in 10. One person who comes in with a high frequency, when there's others, that light and that energy, which Greg Braden's book said extends up to 16 feet away from our heart center, and probably more, but their measuring equipment only went to 16 feet. So that's how we affect everybody else, and that's so every single thing that we think, say, and do is significant.
Yes. So one of the great tips of life might be that, have you found your positive energy partner? That when you find your energy waning due to some circumstance, something happened in your life, that you might turn to them and they're there to uplift you. We certainly find it easy to find those who can bring our energy down, suck energy off of us, take energy from us. Oh, the world is full of those. But have you found your positive energy partner? That when you find these moments of discouragement, of fear, moments where your energy is being challenged and it's wanting to diminish, you make a quick phone call, you have lunch with, you make an appointment with, or you get around those, or you come to church, or you come to a class, and you find that energy reigniting and lifting right back up to a higher place. So it's really important. Find that positive energy partner in your life. The more we can raise our vibration through positive thoughts, words, and actions, the more likely we are to create the life that reflects positive energy right back to us. So we want to be conscious of raising that vibration, not only for ourselves, but for the world around us, knowing that what we're putting out is coming right back to us. So it's not just about, I need to feel positive for today. It's about what you're building on that's coming right back to you tomorrow. We are building on what's going to be returning back to you. You're planting the seeds for that harvest that's coming there. So it's really important. You're knowing that what you're doing, you're attracting for the days ahead by being responsible to raise that vibrational frequency. So the more we understand our role as a co-creator, the more we'll be able to have a say in what we choose to create. What are we choosing? What do you want to create? Do you want to create a world of peace? Do you want to create a world of unity? I mean, this is what I'm going to ask a lot of people. Do you want to create a world of unity? Well, then maybe rethink about what you're saying. Because there's a lot of people who are speaking such divisiveness within this world today. They're posting things that are tit for tat, They're doing things that are tit for tat. You hurt me, I'll hurt you. You bomb me, I'll bomb you. You go to war with me, I'll go to war with you. And so what we think is the whole conversations we have in so many ways, what we're doing is we're not elevating, we're not raising and co-creating a sense of unity. We really, in our world today, may desire disunity. I think a lot of people do. And you ask them, do you really want to be unified? Do you really want to be one? Well, then rethink what you're saying. Because for us to continue to attack one another, whether you be of a different race, a different sexual orientation, a different gender, a different political perspective, whatever it may be, if we're attacking that person, we're not co-creating a sense of unity and oneness. So we're actually expressing something that we may not really want in our life, but we're continuing to create it by the vibration that we send out. Yes.
So
Dr.
if
David
you
Carter.
have a desire for disunity, that really means that you are in fear, because otherwise you would want unity.
Well, there's all fear is kind of the basis of a lot of things within our life. Fear, separation, and lack. So we may feel that, fear that we are not going to have a voice anymore.
Right.
So someone of, let's just say, in the spirit of supremacy or arrogance may say, and that can be on many different levels, saying, feeling like, oh, if I am inclusive of everyone, then suddenly my power, my authority, my control will be diminished in some way. So there's a fear in that respect. And your comment.
So what if there is a person that is obviously, says things like the problem with you is, and that kind of stuff. In other words, a person who's not like-minded, what do you do? I mean, their vibrations are low. Apparently you're not affecting them, at least in their consciousness. And so do you walk away? Or do you say, I don't like you, you're not going to be my friend anymore?
No. Yes, we take this scripture that we read just previously. That which we bind on earth will be bound in heaven. So what we're doing is that even though someone may speak negatively, negative energy, disunity, divisive thinking, all this kind of stuff, what we do is we bind that. To bind that is to express denial. Joyce Reynolds would often say, cancel to something, she would say that meaning that sense of denial. I cancel that which has been just spoken. I cancel. I'm sort of binding it up on this earth because that means we'll be bound up in my consciousness. And what I'm loosing in consciousness, I'm loosing in earth. So though that we may watch negativity on television and news or whatever, we may find things that we're not in agreement, but we just maybe because our mind is, we want to create a sense of unity. We want to create a sense of oneness. We deny or we bind that up in mind and say, I'm not any part of that. And you don't have to say that back to the person.
Right.
You just bind in your own heart that which you are feeling that is, not helpful or accomplishing the desired goal that you want to achieve. Dr. David Carter, your comment.
Okay, but how do you respond to the person? I mean, the person is in your face in a conversation, so how do you respond? I understand how you respond in mind, but how do you verbally respond to that person?
Does everything need a response?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's just better to exit.
Yeah.
But no,
I think a lot of time in life, I think a lot of times in life it's best you just don't respond. Because what happens is when you respond trying to say, I want to correct this thinking, I want to change this thinking, I want to voice my perspective, what you do is you're doing a tit for tat experience. You're saying, this person says the world is horrible, and you're saying the world is good. And they say, but no, the world is really horrible because of this. And they say, no, the world is really good because of that. And all you're doing is escalating a tit for tat experience. Sometimes it's just better, you don't need to say anything, do you?
Okay, but I thought in one class you said sometimes that you can try and reach the person and say, I'm sorry that you're feeling this way, or, is there anything I can do to help you, or whatever. But you're just, sometimes if you just ignore the person, that will cause them to escalate. So can you not say, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, or this is bothering?
If you feel that is, certainly yes. If you feel that's appropriate, but I just want to say, a lot of times, is it really important to respond? Let's go over here to Carla and then to Norma.
I was just going to say, somebody who doesn't want unity or wants to say bad things, sometimes I think that's harboring incorrect core beliefs, and the core beliefs need to be changed, and that goes to another book that we did a while back. But and some people also just need drama because they have wrong beliefs, and that they have to cope with the world through drama. But something to say, going back to Selig again, because one of my favorite books, but is to be neutral, to not, because my personality, I'm Pollyanna, right? Everybody knows that, so I want to be positive and I want to shoot back with positive things. But when I do that, it's almost like I'm fighting against their negativity, yes. So I'm giving it energy too. This is, as Dr. Paul was saying. So to be neutral and not give it any energy at all. And one of the things when he was talking about love in the book Alchemy, he talks about just honoring the person's right to be,
right,
even if it's not the way that we would have them be.
Absolutely.
And that to me has been very, very helpful. And also know that they're on their path, and for somehow that's serving them, and to look for what we can learn about or learn from whatever it is that they're saying to us or doing, And the other thing is that sometimes when I have somebody that I'm kind of doing this with, I will say, I love you too much to argue with you. And that's my response.
I think sometimes, if we don't comment on something, you don't give any energy to it, and it just dies.
Right.
Someone says the sky is falling, and you want to argue the sky is not falling, or I'm sorry you feel that way. You're still giving energy to something. But if someone says the sky is falling and no one comments on it, where does it go? It just dissipates, right? But the more you give energy to something, the more it stays alive. And so sometimes be careful that we're not creating some form of argument, even in our desire to be nice and sweet. Sometimes it just depends upon the person, Okay, let's go to Lethe and then back to Carla.
I just want to, I agree with David that there are times when you do have to give an answer. Otherwise it shows disrespect or something. And I'm talking about this with my children.
Yeah.
And they have their opinions and I have mine. And my response is, look, that's the beauty of planet Earth. We have free will. We have the ability to make a decision, to choose for ourselves.
Right.
And pretty much that squashes it because they know that they can think what they want and I am free to do the same. And that's it.
Right.
I
Good.
do have to answer though.
Anybody else with a comment? All right, Carla, the last one.
I was just
Okay.
going to say, in Sally's book again, too, he talks about that our Creator doesn't actually judge us as, you're good or you're bad, you're right or you're wrong. And like kind of what we've been taught to do and taught, right? Because our Creator is neutral, because we were given free will and to experience all things and to take from that what we learn to grow and evolve. And so knowing that the Creator of all things is neutral, then that tells me if I want to be like that, if I want to aspire to that or whatever, then that's what I want to be too, is as neutral as I can to anything that seems conflicting.
Great. So every scenario is going to have, there's no one rule, but just find what's comfortable with you. You've given different examples. We've given different examples. And we have to ask ourselves, though, is it always appropriate to comment, or do we just let it be? And the key is, what we're wanting to avoid is supporting any kind of negative energy in any way we can. All right, let's move on. Thank you. Oh, you're all doing some great job with comments and insight. I'm loving it today. Thank you.
Can I just say, David, when somebody says to me, I'm sorry you feel that way, it puts them right and you wrong. If you look at it literally, in other words, well, I know I'm right. I'm so sorry that you see it that way. That's not really the right way to see it. My way is the right way. And you get that enough, and you've had enough.
Well, I think it all depends on how the person expresses that.
Well, that's true.
Because when you work in any kind of legal field, and especially in law enforcement, you are taught how to de-escalate things. Sometimes you can de-escalate by simply saying nothing. And sometimes you need calm, loving words to de-escalate the situation that could blow out of control.
Yeah.
So you learn that. You learn when you need to say something and how to say it.
Great. Let's trust the wisdom of God to give us insight, because our intention is not to create more disunity, but to whatever we do, that our action is enhancing that which is our desire. And if the desire is to create a world of oneness, create a world of unity, then let's just ask the Spirit of God to give us insight what's appropriate for that moment. Now, we are all creating the universe together as a team. That's true. Whatever we've shaped in the world is of the collective consciousness. Just as there are those who believe one way or the other, it's the collective consciousness that has created this world. So we may find, some people who are living from a love-based and some from a fear-based. And that collective consciousness has brought us to where we are now. So we've got this mix that in our world today, there is fear. In our world today, there is love. So what we find is this collective is what's creating the conditions that we live in. Every living, breathing thing on this planet is helping to shape the world that we live in. So it's not just a collective group. It's not just some scientists. It's not just some politicians. It's not just some religious leaders that are in charge of how this world is shaped. It is the collective of everyone on this planet. So think of yourself as a ball of intensely powerful energy that has been given the power to create things through your own God-given energetic vibration. Use it wisely. For when we are operating from a higher vibration, we tend to reflect back that vibration. Same thing happens when we're operating from a lower vibration, we will tend to bring back that vibration because likes attract likes. So the key is we want to tap into our creative power. Dr. David Carter, your comment.
Okay, that's really powerful because it not just every human being, but everything that breathes helps shape the planet and the world we live in. So that means I have to look at certain insects from a higher consciousness. I'm being serious. Because when you think about it, everything is here serves a purpose, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm trying to figure out the mosquito and the roach exactly what purpose they're serving. No, but in all honesty, because you think about people that, won't kill anything because they honor it as, a life as valuable as theirs. This kind of makes me think, I've got to kind of reshape a little bit my thinking on certain insects. Like if I can release it because it does play a part.
Yes.
Because everything does. It's breathing is playing a part.
We're part of the food chain. Everything has its importance. Yes. All right. So let's tap into our creative power and let's look at how we might do this. First of all, we can't emphasize this enough that we need to think and feel strongly about something you want to create. Okay? We talked about intellect and emotion. We've talked about the power of knowing and the power of feeling. These are the two components that are so crucial in our life if we're going to ignite this creative power within us. We want to visualize it and begin to bring clarity to the feeling. So we emphasize over and over again, as you have a vision board, allow that vision board to give clarity to the feeling that you want. We have this illustration over and over again that somebody says, I want to be married, and or I want this person to be my spouse. And the real question is, I don't think you want that person to be your spouse. You want to be married. So the feeling is what you want. The feeling of being in love, marriage being a sense of commitment, a marriage being a sense of feeling, a sense of oneness with someone. Is it that person that you want, or is it the marriage that you want, or the commitment you want? So here again, we use a vision board to help reinforce a feeling. Because we're looking at something visual, it becomes a tool, and the real question is, how do I feel about this? So several years ago, I set this intention that by October, and I was going to go on a cruise, and it was also going to be my daughter's wedding. And we were going to be in Tampa, Florida. And I just had this picture of a man running on the beach, fit and in good shape. And I had used that visual to create this feeling of that. And by October, that feeling was mine, and that visual had captured the feeling I wanted, that honestly I'd forgotten all about it. And on the day of my daughter's wedding, which was on the beach in Tampa or in St. Petersburg, I was running on the beach, and I was running on that's exactly what I visualized. I visualized myself feeling fit and running on the beach. And that feeling was what I was experiencing right here and now. Was that man running on the beach? No, I was the one running on the beach. But the visual was capturing or giving me the impetus to feel that which I desired. Feeling energetic, feeling fit, feeling in good shape, to be able to run on the beach. So what we want to do is to bring clarity to the feelings that we want. What is it? Because your emotion, your feeling is the vibrational language of the universe. How you feel about something is what the universe is picking up on. It's wonderful to know, but how do you feel about what you know? We said earlier, we know who we are. We're a child of God. But how do you feel about that? Do you really know how you feel about that? Because if you understand you are a child of God and that you are created in the I Am, and the I Am is alive within you, then what are you doing as a co-creator? What have you manifested today? Manifested? I haven't manifested anything. Why not? That's who you are. You're a co-creator. So if you really know who you are, you're practicing what you are. So if you haven't co-created something this week, let's get to work. Let's start manifesting. Let's start co-creating. Let's start attracting. Let's start bringing to our world those things that we desire. And again, people say, oh, there's nothing that I really desire. Oh, really? Well, how about, let me give you one. World peace. Let's start with that. How about peace in your home and your community? How about your neighborhood experiencing love? How about love surrounding you? How about love radiating from you in 6 feet to 16 feet a radius? How about you start desiring some simple things like that and allowing them to manifest on a day-to-day basis? So let's work on that. Let's practice that which we know. Then feel thankful for it even before it manifests. So what we're doing is expressing the gratitude that says it's here, and so it is. Why would we do that? Because number one, we already possess everything. Everything that we need is already here. That gratitude then affirms that we know that it's already here. All right? And then remove all negative thoughts about it. Do a little thought cleansing of denying, binding on earth, those things that are in this physical realm of doubt, and loosing in consciousness that which you so desire. And start looking for examples of it right now in your life. Focus your attention on what is it you are looking for or desiring. So as someone may say, I'm desiring unexpected income. Are you looking for it? Did you realize it comes in all kinds of different shapes and forms? It's not always someone giving you a $50 bill. It may be that you got a coupon. Someone bought you lunch. Someone did something nice for you. Your utility bill went down by $50. It could be all these different ways. Are you looking for it? Because sometimes we're not actually seeing all the things that we have been manifesting, and we're missing the power of the affirmative working in our lives and saying, wow, I didn't realize I had already manifested that. Shame on me for not seeing this and acknowledging it and affirming it, because I needed to see that to know that that which I believe for is already happening. What we focus on is going to expand. So whatever you're focusing on, if it's lack, if it's fear, if it's, as we talked about, a lack of oneness, if you're focusing on separation, I'm separated from this and that, I'm not part of you, I'm not part of this community, I don't care about this group or that group. The more you focus on, the more that's going to expand. The more you focus on love and oneness and harmony and everyone coming together, the more that's going to expand. So events are happening all the time in our lives. And it's our mindset or our vibration that paints them. Paints them with bright colors or dark colors. Paints them positively or negatively. So it's your mindset. What you choose to focus on and how you choose to see everything in life is essential. What have you chosen? Where do we get this crazy idea that this really works? Oh, once again, ancient wisdom called the Bible. That's very metaphysical. And a lot of people are afraid of the Bible because, number one, they haven't been able to see it through the lenses of metaphysical understanding. So here we find from Proverbs chapter 4:23, be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts. Wow, that's been around for the ages. And we're now just discovering it. We're just now learned understanding. Be careful how you think, because your life is going to be shaped by your thoughts. It's going to paint the vibration. It's going to paint your impression of everything. So if you're thinking negatively, if you're thinking from separation, if you're thinking from lack, if you're thinking from fear, everything in life is going to be shaped by those thoughts. So what we find is this ancient truth that has been around from the ages. The wisdom of the Bible is so metaphysical and so filled with great insights that authors are just saying, let me write a book about this. And you're like, ooh, cool, someone just discovered this. It's been around for thousands of years. And even before the writers of the Bible even put it to ink. Now, the key is you choose. You choose. Choice is such a big thing within our life. What have we chosen? So what will you do with these negative thoughts and vibrations that come into our life? What are we going to do with them? Well, first, remember that these negative vibrations that we welcome into our life are creating us and keeping us from the life that we desire. They are a roadblock. Do you realize you want something wonderful, but you've been entertaining all this negativity, and it's a roadblock to exactly what you want, because what you want is out there, but there's a roadblock. How many of you experienced a roadblock on a road where you're going to your destination? You know your destination is there. You're going to the grocery store, but maybe a tree has fallen because of a storm, and it's a roadblock. But you already know your destination, the store, is there. But what's keeping you from your destination is the roadblock. And so it is in life. The answer to your prayer, your desire, is already there. But what's keeping you from experiencing that answer? Some roadblock. So what we need to do is clear the pathway. Clear out the roadblock of any kind of negativity, and always do a little bit of checkup on our thought process. What are we thinking? And is anything coming from a negative perspective or a negative outlook? Lethe, your comment.
The problem is that we are always, well, me, I'm never always conscious of exactly what is blocking me. I've wanted something, and I meditate and did all this stuff, and it's not happening. And I say to myself, what am I doing that's blocking this? You see what I'm saying? I don't always know what's blocking.
Right. And it's beautiful. Let's ask Spirit, and Spirit's going to reveal to us. Truly, if you want to know what's blocking you, go in silence. Allow things to rise up within you. They're going to speak to you. Your soul is going to communicate with you and tell you what is the roadblock in your pathway. And your comment.
So I had a friend who the best thing, she gave me a Christmas present, and it was a book, and it was entitled Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And it is amazing, and you don't even have to really read what she has to say. There's a section of feelings and what I'm going to call new thoughts, or I feel negative, and this, and then it gives you 4, 5, 6 different examples of positive feelings, and that's new thought. But sometimes the feelings as energy stay in there, and they have to be released somehow. They can come out in meditation, counseling, whatever. But that, I've used that so many times, journaling, I can't even tell you. And you just change your mind, but yeah.
Beautiful. Next, we don't want to hold on to any negative thoughts. We want to release them. And we want to begin to replace them with positive thoughts. Let me tell you, it's not just so important that you release something, because what is the ancient wisdom that we read from the scripture? Bind on earth and be loosed in heaven. Loose in heaven and it'll release in heaven, and it's going to be happening for us on earth. So again, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So you want to bind up the negativity and release, set free the positivity. So how important that is. You can't just do one without the other. All right? Because what happens is, as you bind up something, you create a void, a vacuum that wants to be filled. And you may just bind up some negativity, but you created a vacuum that's going to be filled with more negativity or other negativity. So I love Ann's comment here. Dr. Ann has brought out about this book that offered you some feelings that may be reflected in negativity, but how they could be re-expressed in positivity. I love that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I know, David, go ahead, because I have a
No, go
question,
ahead.
but when you're replacing them with positive thoughts, not necessarily relating to this book, but maybe a relationship or a friend or a friendship or just another person you know, can you just say, I'm going to duck out of this for a while until I get a positive perspective, and then maybe I can come back into this person's life that's dragging me down so much? I mean, that can be a healthy part of life, can't it? I mean, we don't have to make ourselves stay in a situation that's so negative and just continue to try to fight it and, give it off and, whatever.
Right. I'm with you that sometimes we need to remove ourselves from someone who can be negative. That's true. But we don't want to remove from them totally that we just abandon them or whatever. We want to hold in consciousness and work on the positive outlook for them. So that positive outlook this is where the scripture talks about pray for your enemies.
Right.
Now, we may think of that enemy as someone that's an antagonist that hurts us, that says something. And what we want to do is pray for their blessing. So that's the positive thoughts that we want to think about them, even though we may separate ourselves from them.
So you have affirmative prayer.
Yes.
To do that.
Beautiful. Dr. David Carter, your comment.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's where I was headed.
You know what?
Because it sounds like no, I'm just saying that that's what it reminded me of when you talked about it earlier. And every time you said, what you bind on earth, you bind in heaven. What you loose on earth, you loose in heaven. So when you bind something, you're denying it, and then you're affirming something else. So that's like a denial and a reaffirmation.
Right.
It's like the seventh step in the prayer treatment.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, great. That brings it home for some people. Yes, it is that denial and reaffirmation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wonderful. That's what we're, in prayer treatment. Wonderful. Excellent. So let's move on. Everything you need is inside of you. And Carla brought that out so beautifully earlier in our class. And to live the life that is truly destined for you, all you have to do is be yourself. That self is your true self, which knows that everything is working together for good. Now, where did we get this idea that everything's working together for good? Where do we get this idea about our true self? Oh, wait a minute. Let's go to ancient wisdom. Let's go to the Bible, which is very metaphysical, that's been helping us down through the ages and forming all of the pathways of all of our great teachers. Paul Selig is coming from the Bible. Wayne Dyer coming from the Bible. Ernest Holmes coming from the Bible. Everybody's coming from the Bible. Why? Because the Bible is a great source of metaphysical understanding. Let's look at 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. By God's divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. We have received all of this by coming to know Him, the one who called us to Himself by means of His marvelous glory and excellence. What is this passage saying? God has already given us everything we need. So where do we know that? Well, the scripture has been telling us for over 2,000 years that everything you need has already been provided for you. God has already given it to you. And we receive it when we come into knowing. When we come into knowing God. And when you know God, God is within you. When you know God, you are one with God. When you know God, you know that God is expressed in you as God. So when we know this, what happens is we understand that we are called to us by God. What is that calling? That is the bringing together. This is the oneness of understanding. This truth comes to us and it unfolds for us that we go, oh, I get it. I'm coming to knowing what God is. For God is that which is the life force within me. And that is part of me. That is who I am. So when I'm living from that perspective and I know who I am, I just got to be who I am. That's all. I just got to be this revelation of the divine. I've got to be God expressed in this moment. I've got to be God expressing as me being God. I've got to be that because in that, everything I need will be there for me. Dr. David Carter, your comment.
So we come to this earth and bind with the physical body, the house, our spirit, and we intentionally forget so that we can have the actual experience of what we already knew. So then to me, I add that to the Prodigal Son story, because when he remembered who he was, when he awoke, when he realized that he was a child of God and a part of God, then he came into understanding that everything he needed, he already had. The Father already
Yes, excellent. Yes, that paints a wonderful picture for us just there with the beautiful teaching of Jesus on the whole relationship with us and the divine. All right, Carla, your comment.
I'll make a comment on that story because I love that story. That's my favorite story in the whole Bible, and that's such a good example of when the son comes back and he thinks he's going to have to be a servant in his father's house. That's like us blocking ourselves and limiting ourselves from receiving everything that we can have. And I love that when he's coming back and he thinks he's going to have that, not only does the father see him and he's happy he sees him, but he like runs towards him and says, hey, get the ring and get the robe and get the, kill the fatted calf and let's have a party. Because that's how it is for us too, to remember this. When we remember who we are, when we go back to that source, and not to limit ourselves, because everything is there for us. And that's what I love about that story.
And it also proves too that God only knows goodness.
Right.
The Father
Right.
never looks down on the Son. Yeah,
Right, and
yes.
no judgment.
Yeah, no judgment.
So if we'd understand, this is the theology Jesus taught. Our master teacher taught us how to understand everything in this one story. And when we, again, what you're bringing about is when we return to this awareness, there is not a sense of you need to be punished, you need to suffer. Because you left, because you departed from me and you began to think something different and you made a choice, you are now going to be punished. I will separate from you. But what we find is the Father always waiting for the Son.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we get to this fundamentalist theology that says that we would choose to, when we make a choice that God doesn't like, that God cuts us off and says, I'm sending you to hell and you're going to be eternally punished, when we're trying to follow the teaching of Jesus. And the teaching of Jesus in this one sermon helped us understand his theological perspective, the understanding of divine truth for our lives, the understanding of everything that Scripture is trying to tell us. It's found deep within the nuances of this beautiful story, this wonderful sermon. And I think this is where we've digressed. And again, from perspectives of fear, we've ignored all the wonderful insights in this sermon that Jesus offered, this teaching that Jesus offered. And we've created our own ideas and theological perspectives that are fear-based. They're based in separation thinking, that are based in lack, all these kind of things. And that's the challenges that we have, that we've created a society who buys into all these beliefs that are so limiting. So let's move on. So stay in the present and be in the flow. Don't allow negative energy to interrupt your flow, because that's what it does. You're going along in a beautiful flow, and all of a sudden you welcome this negative energy, and it creates that roadblock. It creates that dam, that barrier that the divine flow is now coming up against, because the divine flow is flowing in this wonderful, loving, positive, joyful, peaceful energy. It's moving in that direction, and all of a sudden it hits something that's blocking, and that's where it's keeping. Your answer is already here. That's where it is. You may be over here, but your answer is here, and what's keeping you from the answer to that which you desire and manifesting it is that negative energy that we need to remove so that it continues to flow in divine flow. So don't allow negative energy to interrupt your flow. Accept each moment as an opportunity to grow and learn from each moment. Letha, your comment.
You're saying that block there is something. Does that mean, I'm not hearing all there together. Does that mean that sometimes the block is the answer? Is that what you're saying?
No,
not necessarily. I want that fern and I'm thinking and I can't get it, and there's a block. Maybe I should not have it.
Because what's going to happen is, the answer will bring resolution. But the blocking, you're still saying, wait a minute, I haven't got the answer. I haven't got the answer. I haven't got the answer. You're stuck right here. The answer is not here. Should I have this? Should I not have it? I want it, but I'm not getting it. So because we've created negative energy, we then assume, well, the universe didn't want it for me. That's not true.
No.
The universe, the answer may be there, but once you remove the negativity, the answer may come out, and that may be that there's something better for you. And it may be then, but there's resolution for you. There's not a continual, well, I didn't really get clarity. There is clarity when we've removed the negative and divine flow moves in. There's complete clarity for you on, exactly that the Spirit has something better than this. So it's not a no, it's a something better, okay? Because the Spirit is always yes. And we may think, oh, God said, no, 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 yeah, God's always saying, no, you're not getting that, The Spirit is always yes. There's always a yes. But what with that yes may be, it's something different, and we take that, well, it said no, it says something better is yours. So just know that. So divine flow is moving in positive energy, which is always the yes. Carla.
Again, just going back to Selig, he talks about for us not to determine the outcome so much, so not to pray for something specific, and as you say, always this or something better. Because then we could be, and then it goes back to the prodigal son. He thinks, okay, his better thing is going back and eating what the servants eat and being a servant.
Right.
That's what he thinks he wants, and that's what he's ready for. But God had so much more in plan, or the Father had so much more. It was just like, no, everything. You can have everything.
Do you see how many sermons are in that sermon? Everything we need to know is really found up in the prodigal son story.
Yes,
I mean, the nuances are just so amazing. It's a really powerful study. All right, Dr. David Carter.
Okay, I was just going to comment to Leah that a lot of times I find that when I'm not manifesting that I desired, is because I'm not truly understanding how to keep the Sabbath. And the Sabbath means is that when you get that desire, and he talked about it in here, about how you visualize it, how you start getting the feeling, what does it feel like? And then you have to start living as if, meaning you have to start being it. And until all of those things come into place, and 6 days is just, that's symbolic. But you got to keep the Sabbath and come to those 6 days and release it, and then the manifestation does appear. And Neville talks about that a lot too, that when we don't manifest what it is we desire, because we're not fully keeping the Sabbath, we're not realizing that.
I don't understand that, keeping the Sabbath.
Okay,
Yeah,
like it says, 6
yes,
days
yes.
shall you labor, and it talks about creation, but those 6
Yeah.
days is just symbolic of when you have a desire, when you start feeling it, you visualize it, you live as if, that's keeping the Sabbath. And you have to do the 6 days you labor to get to the rest of the manifestation. You have to do that.
This is Neville Goddard's teaching that David Carter is referring to. So that Sabbath is, and so it is. The Sabbath is saying, and so it is. I believe it to be true. I rest.
Okay.
I'm not panicking. I'm not stressed.
Right,
I'm not worried.
Yeah.
I go, it is, and so it is.
Yeah.
It's already there.
Okay.
I see it. I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. The answer is mine. And so what we've done is we've removed in the Sabbath that he's referring to, in the rest, in the and so it is, you're removing the negativity and allowing the positive energy of yes to flow through in your life. So it's that rest, because it's that creative story is kind of symbolizing for us. We may create. I want, and then rest. I already have.
So how long do you rest?
You rest in the knowing that it's there, and you rest until it's knowing that it's already manifested.
Those thoughts. I'm confused because they say you should stick with the thoughts.
But once you become one with it, I mean, Neville even went so far as to say it's almost like a sexual experience. Once you have an orgasm, you're there. You can rest. Because once you get to that point, you're at the end, you're finished, it's done. The explosion takes place, it's done. So then, like you said, you rest then because you know that you know that you know. So there's no need. And I used to ask Dr. Paul about that all the time because I was confused. I didn't understand either that, can you tell me how long do I have to do this? Or how long do I treat for something?
Yeah.
But once you fuse with it and you know that you do rest, and it's different for each one of us, according to where we are on our path. But at that point where you rest.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that. So let's say I'm thinking of something and I visualize and do all this stuff. And I'm at the Sabbath now and I'm.
Yeah, you'll know
Right.
when you need
How
to let
long
it
do
go.
I stay there?
The Sabbath is this
Because
sense.
I hear
The Sabbath is
one side say stick with it, and
Yeah.
the next one say give it up.
Right.
Release
So
it.
you've got to stick with it until you know it. That's where it comes together. So if you don't know it, you got to go back and stick with it. In other words, you can't rest until you know it. Okay? So if you are praying for something and you're asking God to give you direction, and you're like, I haven't got the direction. Well, you keep treating, you keep doing it. And then all of a sudden one day you go, wait a minute. I know what to do. I know I've got the direction. And I rest because I know. And then I act from that perspective. Having rested, knowing, we now can move into the next 7-day cycle, shall we say. We've labored for 6. We rest in the knowing. and now we're ready to move out in the knowing, having rested. Okay, does that make sense? So that whole creative cycle is a metaphor for what we want to do psychologically in our prayer life. All right, Ann, your comment. Now, y'all are doing such a great job. You're getting too smart here. You know, you all are quoting Neville, Paul Selig, this book, that book, and you're doing great. Excellent.
I quote myself. No. My perception of what you guys are trying to say is you do all the work and you visualize and all that. Then you simply know it's going to happen and you step back. Take one step back and let it happen. It'll happen. You know? Because
the rest is the feeling it is yours.
I guess if you keep at it, it shows, for me, maybe it just shows a sense of doubt.
Yeah.
So I have to keep saying it because there's a little bit of doubt in there, and maybe yes, maybe no, you know, I'm not sure, so I keep at it. Yeah, I think that's what's going on with me.
So that's
When
how
in-
I was with my house.
Yep. When you're in doubt, you're without.
Yeah.
Okay? Just know that. When in doubt, you're without. Okay? Quote me on that one. Because when we're constantly in doubt, we're never going to have it.
Yeah.
So we treat the doubt and go back to treat the doubt, because if you are doubting, you're without. So if you want to possess, then it is the knowing is the going. You've got it. You're moving forward.
You're such a poet.
There we go. And I don't know it, but my feet show it. They're Longfellows. Okay.
Pump him up.
All right. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Let's move on. Life is various shades of light and dark. So embracing both sides is a part of the process. You know, the law of opposites, we've talked about this, is what really is working to help us. So when we experience darkness, we appreciate light. When we appreciate light, we're more aware of what darkness is, that we don't want the darkness. So it is that you may be going through some times that help you to define clearly what it is you really want and what you really want to feel and how you really want to express these things, because you're experiencing the opposite. Okay? So when we desire darkness, well, we can appreciate, define, and get clarity about our desire for light. But often a period of darkness can motivate us to change and create something different, because when you dwell long enough in what you don't want, you finally figure out what you do want. That's why some people have to learn through the school of hard knocks, is what we call it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I want success, but I ain't going to follow the rules. I'm not going to be responsible. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And the school of hard knocks is teaching them, wait a minute, I'm not getting success. And then finally, oh, I realize I've got to change what I'm doing. And the school of hard knocks finally teaches them the hard way. But that's why sometimes people are in this period of darkness until they learn how beautiful it is to experience the light. So tap into your creative part of your brain and be more intuitive. In the silence, allow the wisdom of the universe to rise within, to speak within, to reveal from within, because your soul is speaking to you. Now, I'm adding here 3 simple steps to becoming more intuitive. You can agree with them or not, but it's just a suggested practice of how we might work on being intuitive. Have you been with those people who really have the gift of intuition and intuitiveness and speak maybe an intuitive reading for you that offers insight and guidance because they're really in tune with an inner wisdom? Reverend Dr. Joyce Reynolds would hosted many a workshop on intuitive readings, teaching you how to be more of an intuitive person, to claim and to be open to the wisdom of God speaking and unfolding for us. So here's a few things that I'm sharing with you that are from Nicole Guillaume. She's an author, and here's some exercises. All of us have the opportunity to tap into the collective consciousness where we're privy to information on just about everything. Do you know that? All of us. The wisdom of God is available to everyone. Not only does this provide for us an abundance of knowledge, but it also opens up our spiritual eyes and ears so that we can see and hear the other side and how important this is. So here's some steps to being a greater intuitive. Number 1, ask. Just ask. You know? Someone just spoke to me. I was facing a situation and someone said, just ask God. Ask your spirit guides. Ask whatever, your higher power. Ask that divine to speak to you and show you the way. And like, well, yeah, duh. That seems so obvious. So I asked, and you know what? I received. This is quite possibly the most overlooked aspect of becoming an intuitive. You gotta ask. And yet it's one of the most important. If you want to grow your psychic gifts, your ability to be intuitive, to understand, to know, well, if you want your intuitive muscles to become stronger, then ask for it. Begin right there. Simply speak aloud to your spiritual source and ask that they help you open up your intuitive gift that's already there. There's a channel of the divine wisdom that wants to flow through you. You know, these authors, Paul Selig is just open and asking guides to speak through him. Doesn't mean that he's any better or any greater than anyone else. As an author, he just asked and allowed the Spirit to speak through him. So be specific as to what type of intuitive gifts you want and why you want them and how to use them. Okay, Dr. David Carter.
So my question is, so what type of intuitive gifts are there? I mean, what do I choose from?
Well, I mean, are you wanting to be a channeler? Are you wanting to just be able to have insight? Are you just wanting information? Are you wanting to be intuitive about this moment? Are you wanting to be intuitive about, a collective body that you're speaking to and you want to address them? Intuition will come to you in all different. What's the scenario? What circumstance are you in? You want to be intuitive with your daughter, okay? And you want to know how to relate to her. Ask for that situation. Or are you wanting to be intuitive about how to discover world peace? Ask for that. Okay. So, I mean, it's all the saying is just what's the scenario that you want? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Great question. Thank you. Now it's number 2, meditate. Meditation allows us to clear our minds and to raise our vibration. So we're going to ask, and then we're going to clear our mind. And it aligns our body and our spirit into one harmonious being while connecting us to the universe. This, in turn, makes us much more sensitive to the energies around us. Key thing, being sensitive to the energy, because that energy is speaking to you. You'll receive intuitive information quickly and effortlessly when meditation becomes part of your daily routine. So a lot of people are like, I meditated for 2 minutes. Am I intuitive now? Well, wait a minute. You've got to hone these skills. Are you willing to practice at anything? Because if you're not willing to practice, you're not going to be good at it, right? Practice makes perfect, okay? So you want to be good at it? Practice, 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 okay? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. There we go. All right, and your question.
I just had a comment. I remember when I first started the Emerson program and I talked to you about some stuff, and I started meditating every day and reading and studying, and this stuff started coming to me. I didn't even know what it was at first, but I remember saying to John Carn, who was teaching whatever class I was taking at the time, will this go away? And he said, not if you keep your practice every single day, So you do, you have to keep it up. You have to keep it every day, or you're going to lose it.
Excellent, excellent. Next, practice, just what we've been talking about. Decide what type of intuitive you would like to be and begin to experiment with different games and exercises to build your skills. Now, here's some examples. Here's find the card. Take a set of cards. It can be a regular deck of cards, tarot cards, or whatever, Uno cards, whatever you want. Take 3 of the cards out of the deck, just 3, okay? Picture that. Look at each of these cards and pick one that you want to concentrate on, okay? A blue card, a red card, a green card, whatever it is. What card are you choosing? Is it a jack? Is it an ace? Is it a spade? What is it? What are you choosing? Just choose one of the 3 cards to concentrate on. After you've gotten a good feel for the card, place it with the other 2 cards and turn them face down. So you got all 3 cards face down in front of you, right? Shuffle them up a little bit. You don't know where they are. You don't know where that card is that you chose. Where is that card that's an ace? I don't know, because I mixed them up and I laid them all 3 down. And then as you mix the cards up and lay them down in a straight line in front of you, Now use your intuition as to which card is the one that you are focusing on. Practice, practice, practice. Okay? Pick up on the energy of that card. Pick up on the energy. What is speaking to you? Be intuitive. What is your hunch? Speak to that hunch. Allow that hunch. Okay, Dr. David Carter.
Is intuitive another word for discernment? I'm kind of putting
Yes,
it together.
yes. So in other words, having a sense of knowing,
Okay.
a sense of understanding, to be intuitive about the situation. What do I do? How should I act? Where should I go? What's the answer I'm seeking? What do I need to know here? So I want to be more intuitive. Maybe as you're visiting with someone and they're talking about their problems, and you're saying, I want to be intuitive. I want to know, what can I say? What's the right thing to say? So you pick up on the energy, the feeling, and you begin to get insight as to how you might speak to that person that might bring resolution to their questions, to their drama, to their chaos, to their fear, whatever it may be that you are facing. Okay? Now, next, concentrate on and see if one of the cards seem to stand out to you. And some people like to place their hand above the cards to see if they can feel a sense of warmth or vibration from their chosen card. But don't get discouraged if you don't get it right the first time. What are we going to do? We're going to practice, practice, practice. Now, there's other tips you can read through, but here's another one. The answer is, because I love this one. This is a good one to do just for fun. Stand in front of your bookshelf. How about the Emerson room here? This wonderful Dr. Angelo Pizzello Wisdom Library of over 4,000 books. Well, pick out a book that catches your eye. Hold the book close to you and think of your question as you hold the book in your hands. Open the book to whatever page you feel led to and read the passage. Do the words of this book answer your question? I'm going to tell you, that has happened to me so many times. I would go to Barnes & Noble. I would look in the spiritual section early on in the year about 2000. And in particular, this was happening to me a lot. I was searching in a lot of issues and questions. And I would just be drawn to a certain book. And I may be flipping through it all. Whoa, wait. And I would all of a sudden look at this page. And there was like the Spirit was speaking to me, like guides were speaking to me. Like, I was like, okay, this is really strange. But I was like, the answers were there and they were coming to me in wonderful revelations. So I want you to hone your intuitive sense and try some of these. Next is a mind reader. This is my favorite exercise the author is writing, but it does require participation of a friend, preferably one who is open to becoming more intuitive. Maybe you find an intuitive partner that you want to practice with. So get comfortable in an area where there are no distractions, and while you are alone, think about your friend for a few moments and take note of the thoughts and images that pop into your head. At the end of the day, or the end of this exercise, tell your friend about your thoughts that you received and see what type of feedback you get from your friend. You've been probably already doing this. Have you not maybe been thinking about a friend and a scenario they're going through? And then it pops into you, I need to call them and I need to inquire, how are you doing? Or I need to check in on them, or I need to offer a word of comfort or peace or strength. And lo and behold, you call and go, I just felt like I needed to call you. And they go, well, thank you. That's exactly what I needed today. So you may already been intuitive, because yesterday that happened for me. Someone was intuitive and they called me and said, I just want to check in. How are you doing? Because I sense that maybe you need to have a little check-in. Yesterday or this week was September 15th. Robert and I met each other 21 years ago. Today, Robert passed away 6 months ago. So there's been a lot of energy and emotion around this. And someone just called and said, how are you doing? Checking in on you. I believe that was their intuition, their intuitiveness to be sensing that maybe just needed to check in. I said, thank you, I'm doing fine. But just that moment of someone checking in made me feel even better that I'm okay. I'm doing okay. And I had to check in with myself as they checked in with me. I'm like, you know what? That's right. I just checked in and I think I'm okay with all of this. I'm going through it. I'm working through it. It may be challenging, but I'm working through it. So building your intuition is like anything else. It takes time. You have to be patient. Go deep within. And I want you to push out your own suffering into the light. Get down to where your questions, your things that you are calling suffering. Suffering is a choice. Okay? We all go through challenges, but to suffer in the challenge is your choice. Okay? You know, there's many a person who said, I was held as a prisoner against, my will, and it wasn't really I did nothing wrong. I was captured by an enemy, let's just say, and I was imprisoned. And their choice was, I am not going to hate this person. I'm not going to see this as a hardship. I'm not going to see this as a difficult time. I'm going to see this experience from its highest and best. I choose not to suffer in my imprisonment. Beautiful. Because they faced a challenge, but they chose not to suffer. Each and every one of us can choose. Do you want to suffer? You can. It's your choice. You want to suffer through everything what you're going through? It's your choice. But you can also choose not to suffer, even though you may be going through some challenge. Dr. Ann, your comment.
Well, I remember when I learned to meditate, I didn't learn different kinds. I kind of learned one kind. But every day I meditated, and for the first 2 years I cried every single time I meditated. And most of the time, I didn't know what it was about. But at one point I said, I am so sick of crying. And that was when I called you, and if you remember, you gave me 2 or 3 Bible verses that were very helpful. If you recall what they were, maybe that would be good to mention.
Right. Take no thought or worry. There's one beautiful passage. Certainly be at peace. God is all thing. The peace of God passes all understanding. There's all these wonderful truths that are available to us to embrace in our thought process to shift us from what we're going through as being a suffering experience, or is this a challenge for growth, an opportunity to learn? Certainly, as I look back over the past 6 months of going through the grieving process, I look back at what did I learn? I chose not to suffer. I knew that if I was alone by myself, it's very easy to go to those dark places. So I chose to be around people of like mind, encouraging, to be with someone, to have someone in my life, to have all these things going on, that just saying, I choose not to suffer. I choose to move on. I choose to move through this and to learn from this experience. So, Dr. David Carter, your comment.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that what you just read reminds me of Paul Selig's books too. You bring it out and then you don't get rid of it, but you just move it to the upper room. You look at it differently.
So push out your suffering. Get it out, because sometimes we have coddled it, babied it. I'm suffering. Woe is me. You don't know really how. What? Medicated it, nursed it, fed it, bottle fed it. It's your baby. Yes. You've done all these kind of things. Yes. Now, see it as an opportunity for growth. Through this, we become more positive about life, and we gain a greater compassion for others who are traveling the similar journey. Now, when we have low points in our life, it's because we're getting ready to shift to a new high level, a new level of high. So when there's something low that's coming to your way, remember, it's in the law of opposites. Now, what happens is quite often, everything unlike what you want, unlike love, unlike the highest vibration, unlike your desire, may begin to rise for you to deal with it, to clear out that blockage, to deal with that, to cleanse and to clear off all the scum that's rising to the surface, to clean it all out with your net and gather it up and get it out of the way so that there might be clarity, because you're shifting to a new level of high. Wonderful. Wow, a lot of great things to happen as we realize the power of positive energy within our life. Thank you so much for joining us today for our class here at the Emerson Institute. And I hope that you have enjoyed this session. I'd love to hear what's your takeaway. So if you're listening with us right now and you're in our live streaming program, we'd love for you to take a moment and just type in something that spoke to you today that was really helping you increase that positive power, that energy within your life. Love to hear from you. While we're waiting to hear from you all, let's go around our room and let's hear from some of our students. I'm going to invite you to speak up clearly so the camera can pick up your voice as we hear your comments. Let's start with Carla. Tell us what your takeaway is from today's session.
Well, loving this book. I love all the books. One thing is, I kind of reminded myself that since we are one with God, that we already have everything.
Yes.
And just not to limit myself or ourselves, and just to receive it, to be open. And the other, on Dr. David Carter's comment about keeping the Sabbath, it kind of reminded me too that God created the world in 6 days and on the seventh rested, so that keep the Sabbath kind of correlates with that 6 and 7 too. And it made me think, I wonder if, I know it's symbolic, but I wonder if we, hold the feeling and the belief and kind of manifest for 6 days, so to speak. And then on the seventh, we rest too, because God, made the world and saw it was good and then rested. And so if we manifest, do our part, and then say, and so it is, and rest, and just let it be.
And I like your comment, and see it as good. That's right. When we start to see it as good, that meaning it's good. It's already done. It's here. It's, see it as good. God saw it as good at the end of shall we say, the 6 days. And that's the rest. Yes, beautiful. I love it. Excellent takeaway. Amy, what's your takeaway from today's class?
Everybody's comments. But I think fear is the main thing that stops people from manifesting.
Yes.
And we are so inundated with fearful messages on, the news and media, and with each other, that's clouding everything.
Yeah.
I think that if we can each remember who we really truly are, then all fear dissolves. It will go away. And what else? I really liked you. The knowing is the going, and when in doubt you are without.
Yeah. Little catchphrase.
That's very catchy. I like
There we go. Good. All right. We'll make those into T-shirts, right? The knowing is the going. Yeah. All right. Norma, what's your takeaway from today's class?
I like
Carla.
Couldn't come up with your name.
What's her name?
I like her version of the prodigal son.
Yes.
Visit back home.
Excellent.
That said a lot to me.
Wonderful. Let's go to Ann. What's your takeaway?
I like when we have low points in our lives, it's because we're getting ready to shift to a new level of high. Because even very recently, within this last week, some big issue came up with me. And that part doesn't get any easier. But once you look at what's happening and you realize it's going in a good direction and it's taking on a new character for healing, if you can get your mind wrapped around that, it becomes more of a joyful experience to grow instead of carrying a heavy load all the time. So being able to see that there's a shift coming and that it's all good can help you take on a new character. And you can relax with it and use your creative ability to solve whatever it is that's coming up.
Beautiful. Excellent. Let's go to Steve. What's your takeaway from today's class?
Proverbs 4:23. Be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts.
Yeah. Wow. Ancient truth. There we go. 2,000 years, and we still haven't learned that, huh? All right. Let's go to Dr. David Carter.
Okay, my thoughts are just like Carla's. Everything we need is already inside of us. And for me, the prodigal son, that story, says it all, because the son looked for everything outside of himself. That's why he wanted money to go do whatever he wanted to do in the physical world. And when all of that was spent, and he'd done all of that and still felt empty, I think at that point, he realized that this is just all surface. This is physical, it's temporal. But my soul is crying out to me. I have everything I need inside of me. And once he came to himself and realized who he was, that was his moment of spiritual awakening. And he went back and realize I have it all. I am spirit, and I'm going back to my Father, meaning I'm going back to my roots. That was
beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do we have any takeaways from our students who are viewing us through the live stream?
not so far.
Not so far. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our session. This is class number 4. Next week, beginning class number 5, as we continue on the power of positive energy. Continue to read ahead. We've got some exciting things coming up in each class session. Practice some of those exercises that you'll find in our notes today, and let's just see how intuitive we become and how we hone that skill of just being a sense of more in tune with the knowing. Dr. Ann, your comment.
You know the part about the cards, what popped into my mind right away was the tarot cards.
Yes.
And I was sitting here trying to think, I've never had a reading. I do have a set, but I play with it by myself. I don't do it with anybody else. But I guess you sit with the person that's doing the reading for a while, they get some intuitive sense about you. And so it doesn't matter if they pick the card, they shuffle, or if they say to the person, pick 3 cards or 6 or however many. It's the intuitive process that's coming through the cards, I guess, that's working in that way of doing something.
It's coming through.
Yes,
Can I add just one more thing too? Because when
Carla.
Dr. David was talking, it reminded me of something else with the Prodigal Son, which is just like so quantum, everything keeps coming from it.
love it, love it.
But is that, again, when the son came back, and I said this before, when he was willing to just be a servant and to eat what the servants ate, that's like us with wrong core beliefs, like thinking we don't deserve.
Right.
And so when we're going to God, sometimes we're like, oh, yeah, I don't deserve this, I'm unworthy. And that's how we are, like that son. But the father in the story is like, didn't say anything about that. He's like, all I have is yours. And I want us to all remember, all God has is ours. And that's another huge thing from that story. So just for everybody to remember, all God has is ours. We just have to be willing to receive it.
He left moving out with just the physical means. When he spent all the physical means of the 5 senses, he was at his lowest end, and he was eating what was being fed to the pigs. So it is when we just constantly operate all of our life at our physical means, we're brought down lower and lower and lower. But when we awaken, we now move back into the realm of the Father, and we're moving from the spiritual means, which means a fatted calf has been killed, the robe is placed on us, a ring on our finger, all these wonderful things. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and everything else shall be added unto you. Oh, there's so many nuances in this beautiful story of the prodigal son. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. We want you to know that if you have enjoyed this class, there's an opportunity for you to give through our website at www.cityoflightatlanta.com. You can offer your donations there in support of the Emerson Institute at City of Light. God bless you. Have a great week.